Hey everybody, Professor Klein back here in the Human Anatomy Lab at Ohio University, and today I'm bringing you all right, here it is next to the skeleton, and really what we're talking about is the femur, the tibia, and the fibula as it works down to the foot. All right, so what do we got here? Well, let me just run through all the muscles. Starting anteriorly, this is the tensor fascia latae. It comes down and it inserts into the iliotibial band, or the IT band right here. That goes all the way down to below the knee. What are these other muscles in the front? These are the quadriceps. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 1 underneath. Now this one on top is called the rectus femoris. Rectus femoris. Most lateral, the vastus lateralis. Most medial, the vastus medialis. Now let me pop this off here. This one in here, the vastus intermedius muscle. And you're seeing those pop up on the screen right now. What's the other one? And maybe I put back on the vastus or the rectus femoris so that you can see where this one crosses over. And this is the Sartorius. Sartorius right here. Sartorius starts up at the ASIS, goes all the way down to what we call the pes and serine on the medial side of the tibia. Let's look at those on a skeleton. All right, let's start with the 3 deepest here. You can see an orange vastus lateralis, blue vastus intermedius, and yellow vastus medialis, and they all come together down here basically around the patella. Now if I look, bring in a bonus model here, this is essentially what's going on. Now it would be on this side, but think about it replicated on this side here. And essentially what we have are the 4 quadriceps, and I'll show you the rectus femoris in a moment, merging together at what's called the quadriceps tendon. That's this one right here that's popping up on the screen. That is a tendon that wraps over top of the patella. You can see the patella underneath here, and then turns into the patellar ligament or tendon, and finally inserts on the tibial tuberosity. So the final insertion point is way down here, called the tibial tuberosity. See that bump right there? That's the tibial tuberosity of all the quadriceps. All right, what are these 3 gonna do? They're gonna do knee extension. Knee extension with these 3. All right, but we still gotta talk about the rectus femoris right here. I'm gonna get a big piece of tape because this is a huge muscle, and I'm gonna come in to this origin point, which is the AIIS, the anterior inferior iliac spine. You can also see it on this side as this bump right here. What does that mean? Well, it's gonna go from that AIIS all the way down and over top of the other ones to the same thing, merging together at the quadriceps tendon, patellar tendon, into the tibial tuberosity. But this one lays over top of the other ones like you saw over here. Now jumping back, what this means is it's gonna cross the hip joint. So it's not only gonna do knee extension, but it's also going to do hip flexion. So right here, I'm doing both the actions of the rectus femoris. We got hip flexion and knee extension going on at the same time. And we got to get the Sartorius in there, so let me come on over to our tape area here. Lots of tape. We love taping. And let me see. Let me grab some pink tape to use for the Sartorius. As a reminder, this is the Sartorius right here. It's the longest muscle in the body, and it is starting up at the ASIS, coming down to the pes and serine. What's that look like over here? Well, here's the ASIS, and we can see it on both sides as the anterior superior iliac spine coming all the way down. Follow this pink one. Let me zoom out for a moment. The pink one, it's coming all the way down to the medial side of the tibia in a spot called the pes and serine. Now we can see this on either side here as the Sartorius. It's time for even more tape. Let's grab black for the IT band. All right, and I actually put the TFL tensor fascia latte on here as well, coming from the ASIS down to the IT band itself, this long, black, dense piece of connective tissue here. And the IT band really holds in all these other muscles, keeping them from pushing laterally, so it pushes down and holds these muscles in. Back to this model here, that's this white band here, and it is rather thick and wide, so it might even go a little bit wider in the real human, but this is a great representation of the IT band. While we're talking about the IT band, let's talk about what else inserts in the IT band, and for that we got to flip it around posteriorly, and we can see the gluteus maximus. Gluteus maximus inserts into the IT band. There are the upper fibers and the lower fibers of the gluteus maximus, and the upper fibers insert into the IT band. And we've got gluteus minimus, this green piece of tape. Gluteus medius, which is this yellow tape right here. And with gluteus medius, we could pop off the gluteus maximus here and see that gluteus medius underneath. Now it's really been covered by the IT band. This is it right in here. It does stretch over this area. Wait a minute, I got the book here. Let me just bring the book in. The book has a great picture of the gluteus medius versus the gluteus minimus over here. So very similar between medius and minimus, but over top all of them, here is the gluteus maximus, and you can see a little bit of the minimus, or I'm sorry, the medius right here, but the maximus covers them all. So let's see that on the skeleton. Whoa, here it is. And you can see the maximus coming from the iliac crest, the sacrum, this region, and then working its way down to not only the femur, but this iliotibial band. Great picture of it, again, is here. Well, a lot of it goes into the IT band, but some of it goes into this gluteal tuberosity of the femur. All right, now what is the gluteus maximus doing? It's doing hip extension. So watch as I pull the hip back here, try to give you a full zoom of it. The gluteus maximus contracts when you're doing hip extension. It also does, because it's at an angle, external rotation. Take a look at that external rotation. The toe is pointing outward. That is external rotation going on with the gluteus maximus. How about the medius? You can still see it in there, yellow. Well, we're doing straight abduction of the medius, and see how the medius scrunches up when I do hip abduction. Let me take the maximus off so you can see that more clearly. All right, I've pulled back the maximus. Here's the medius. Let's take a look. If I take the leg straight to the side, boom, there it is, the gluteus medius performing hip abduction. let's get back here to the actual model, man, and let's talk about the piriformis muscle. This is the piriformis muscle, and this one distinctly is over top of the sciatic nerve. So this is the start of the largest nerve in the body. This is the sciatic nerve right here. Now this is the femur, and we got the greater trochanter here. So we got a lot of what we call external rotators deep down in the hip. So let's name them here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And these 4 are the gemellus superior, the obturator internus, gemellus inferior, and the quadratus femoris. Those are the 4 that we would call the external rotators of the hip. Not gonna tape those, but I will show you in the book some great pictures of these. You can see the glute has been removed, even the medius has been removed a good bit. And here's the piriformis, here's the gemellus superior, obturator internus, gemellus inferior, and then quadratus femoris. And one final level, you can see them all over here on the picture. Back to the model, and now we're looking at a huge muscle group in the back part of the thigh, the hamstring muscle group here. So let me twist it a little bit more for you so you can see the full hamstring group. And here it is, all the way up from the ischial tuberosity down below the knee. So this one inserts below the knee, but what you'll notice is that there's 2 on the medial side and 1 on the lateral side. So the lateral one, let's start here. This one is called the biceps femoris, the biceps femoris muscle, versus this other one called the semitendinosus. Now be careful, because there's another one underneath, and you can see it on this side, as well as a sliver of it on this side as the semimembranosus. So 1 on top, 1 on the bottom. I like to call the top one a hot dog for the semitendinosus because it sits on top of the other one like a hot dog sits in a bun. And it also has a T in it, which hot dog has a T in it. Now the other one I call a bun because it's underneath the hot dog and it has a B in it as well. So if that helps, use that to your advantage. Now one of them is coming down and actually gonna attach to the same place that the Sartorius attached to. See the Sartorius coming around from the anterior side, coming down in here to the pes and serine. That's the semitendinosus that's gonna come down there as well. We got one more muscle that will attach, and might as well mention it since we're looking at it. This long muscle here, part of the adductor muscle group, is the gracilis. So the Sartorius, gracilis, and semitendinosus all insert at what's called the pes and serine. And as a reminder, over on the skeleton, this down in here, this would be the pes and serine on the medial side of the tibia. Time to show you the tape. Wait a minute, there's one more thing to mention about the hamstrings before the tape. And that is, there's actually a long head and a short head to the biceps femoris. So I'm gonna remove the long head here. This is the long head of the biceps femoris. And right underneath it, let me get the probe on it here, is the short head of the biceps femoris. Short head. And I can remove these other ones as well so we can see a full, oops, losing all the muscles, a full look at it here. And this short head is going to have a different nerve innervation. All the other hamstrings are the tibial nerve. The tibial nerve branches from the sciatic nerve, often called the tibial branch, but we're going to call it a full-on nerve as it innervates all the hamstrings except the short head of the biceps femoris. That's going to be innervated by this nerve called the common fibular nerve right here. That is hitting the short head of the biceps femoris. First up, let me just show you that biceps femoris short head right here. Now all the hamstrings are going to do a knee flexion going on here. Knee flexion. So you can see the biceps femoris short head does do knee flexion as this piece of tape bends or crunches up. All right, now we got the rest of them on here, and the other ones are coming from the ischial tuberosity, call it the sit bone right here, this part of the ischium bone of the hip, and they're coming down. And let's follow the orange one first, the long head of the biceps femoris. It's coming down to the head of the fibula, same spot as the short head for the insertion, but again, it travels this entire length. The other two, the green one is the semitendinosus and the blue one is the semimembranosus, and those come down together, but that membranosus, look at it, it's deeper. The tendinosus stays on top, and the tendinosus reaches around. Let me see if I can get this here. Here we go. See how the green and the pink come together? Remember that pink was the Sartorius muscle, and they're gonna both insert at the pes and serine, whereas the semimembranosus just extends down to the tibia, a different part of it. Now these, like I said, these do knee flexion like this, but those three also are gonna do hip extension. See how they are pulling back with hip extension as well. So I'll zoom out. These are two actions of the hamstrings, hip extension and knee flexion. Woo. All right, we are almost done with the thigh muscles, and we just have one more compartment to go, and that is the adductor compartment. This is the medial compartment of the thigh. Now, if we're looking here, I already mentioned one of these, and this is the gracilis. So here's the gracilis right here. Let me turn it though, because we got 5 total. What I like to do with the medial compartment is I like to pick the one in the middle and then find the 2 on either side. Because the one in the middle, which is this one right here called the adductor longus, is the easiest to find. It forms a V shape with the sartorius. See how it's going right into the sartorius to form a V? Now that actually forms a triangle when you add in the inguinal ligament, and I'll throw a picture up of the femoral triangle we'll talk about in a moment. But this adductor longus is right here, and you have 1, 2 above it. Let me look in real close. Really close. Really close. All right, you see this one in here? This is representing the adductor brevis, just where the probe is right now. The adductor brevis. This one up here is representing the pectineus. The pectineus. Now, those muscles are a lot larger than they look at on the model. So now you got to come over the book and say, well, this is the pectineus. This is the adductor brevis. Now you only see such a small part of each of these, but they're actually much larger muscles than the model would show. Here's that adductor longus. We mentioned the gracilis already. So there's one last one to show, and that is the adductor magnus. It is huge right here, and you can see it from an anterior, posterior, medial view, all different kinds of views. So let's go over here back to the model, and let's see this one here. This one confuses a lot of students, so take good notes on this one. The adductor magnus is this, and this. So 1, 2, 3 different sections, if you will, of the adductor magnus. It's all one muscle, but you can see it in this area, and this area with the gracilis going straight through it. That's the adductor magnus. All right, let's keep going and let's look at the lower leg here. I gotta get up and over top of this model to see the entire calf structure. Now there's actually 3 different muscles for the calf, and together they're called the triceps surae, but really we just call it the calf muscles. First off, most superficially, we can see the gastrocnemius. We've got a medial compartment, or medial head, and lateral head right here. Now the lateral head can pop off, and we can see underneath the soleus muscle right here. We can also see this muscle up in here, the plantaris. Plantaris is a very small muscle with a long tendon coming down, and really all these muscles converge into the Achilles tendon. So we got the Achilles tendon right here connecting to the calcaneus bone. So a lot going on in the superficial posterior compartment of the leg. But let's remove this and let's keep diving deeper, because we have some posterior muscles that are deep in the leg. Now I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4 right here. What was number 1? Well, this is the flexor hallucis longus. This is coming down, coming around, and going all the way out to the big toe to flex it. Next up, let's jump over here. Let's go to the flexor digitorum longus, because that's very similar. Wraps down and around, but it goes to all 4 digits, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right there to flex those toes. The one in between, it's labeled number 40 here. This one is actually the tibialis posterior. Tibialis posterior, and it's going to come down and insert over on this medial side. Now it's not going to do anything with the toes because it stops right on this medial navicular bone here, but it's going to invert and plantar flex the ankle. What's the other one? 41. Well, this muscle is just crossing the knee. It doesn't have anything to do with the ankle. It's the popliteus muscle. Popliteus muscle right here, and it's going to help in unlocking the knee. That's kind of a different function, different movement, but I'm throwing up on the screen what unlocking the knee means. All right, if I turn it to the side here, we're on the lateral side. The pinky toe is the lateral side, and we can see 2 different muscles. Doesn't look like 2, right? But we got a number up here. We got a number down here. We got the fibularis longus and the fibularis brevis. Now they look like they merged together, and they certainly kind of smashed together, but they are 2 separate muscles. One of them coming down laterally to the 5th metatarsal and stopping. This would be the brevis tendon right here, number 61. Number 62 actually dives deeper into the foot and wraps around the foot. I got to show you that on the skeleton because you can't see it on this model. So let's take a look. Here we can see them on the fibula. The yellow one is the fibularis longus and the orange one is the fibularis brevis. Now they both come down and travel posteriorly to the lateral malleolus, but then one of them comes out and inserts on that lateral fifth metatarsal. The other one, let me take you underneath the foot here, travels all the way over to the first metatarsal on that medial side. Keeping it going, let's jump to the anterior side here. And on the anterior side, we can see a few things. We can see, well, the bone would be the most anterior here, the tibia bone. That's what you most often refer to as your shin bone. But then right next to it is your tibialis anterior. Tibialis anterior coming down and going to the medial side of the foot. Very similar to the tibialis posterior, which is what would come down and also insert in a very similar area. And they do the same thing with inversion of the ankle, but the tibialis anterior also does dorsiflexion. Dorsiflexion. What else is on here? Well, we got two of them here. We got one, it's labeled number 34, and then another one labeled number 44. And really what this one is, it's larger. So it's the extensor digitorum coming down, going to digits 2, 3, 4, and 5 to extend the toes, And the other one is going to extend the toes as well, but just the big toe, just digit number 1. That's the extensor hallucis longus. Extensor hallucis longus tucked right in here. Well, what else do we have here? We've got the extensor retinaculum covering the extensors. We've got the extensor digitorum brevis deep down in here on the foot. We do see a few foot muscles. We've got the extensor hallucis brevis going out to just the big toe as well. And we're almost done, but we got a few more on the foot. I do have a comprehensive foot model. This model over here, another video on this one. Check that out on the tab that's dropping down on your screen right now if you want to see this model. But I really just want to point out a few over here, and the few that we can see. First off is the flexor digitorum brevis underneath. It's like the longest but brevis, and it's flexing the toes. We can see that flexor hallucis longus tendon coming through here. We also have the abductor hallucis, which is going to abduct the big toe, just like we have the abductor digiti minimi on the pinky finger, or not finger, the toe side here. We're on the foot, Professor Klein. This is the foot. And you can see the plantar fascia has been cut. Here's a picture of what the plantar fascia would be overlapping all these other muscles. And deep down in here, you can see the plantar interossei, which would adduct the toes. Let's do some blood flow here. And we're picking it up at the femoral artery. But wait, first we got to get to the femoral artery itself. This is the femoral artery down in here, but how did we get here from the heart? Well, if I go back up to the heart, we're going out the ascending, transverse, and descending aorta. And then we turn it into the thoracic aorta to right here, and then it's the diaphragm. Once it gets to the diaphragm, it's the abdominal aorta, this huge artery coming down, but then you see it splits, right? We got one on the right, one on the left. These are the common iliac arteries. Those will split again into the internal iliac and the external iliac. Now the external iliac is going to come down and turn into the femoral artery once you cross that inguinal ligament. Femoral artery. Then let's jump back to the model. Now we got the femoral artery, the femoral vein, the femoral nerve. The nerve does everything anterior for the femoral nerve. But let's track the artery. The artery is coming down, and it's actually going to travel medial, and it goes through something called the adductor hiatus in the adductor magnus muscle. Remember, this is the magnus muscle. Where's it going next? Well, we got to go posterior, and it pops out posterior. And let me get the hamstring off here. Pops out posterior, and now we can see the sciatic nerve into the tibial, and the tibial nerve now runs parallel to the popliteal artery and vein. So now we're in the back of the knee. So this is the popliteal artery and the popliteal vein. Now you lose the vein for some reason, but the artery keeps going. In reality, the vein would be here as well. But this becomes the anterior and posterior tibial artery. Now anterior goes anterior, so we can only see the posterior tibial as it tracks down and around the medial side of the foot, going to the bottom of the foot, which would be the plantar artery. All those pictures popping up on your screen so you can see those even better. Now going over here to the anterior side, let me pop off tibialis anterior. There we go. Here's a good shot of it. The anterior tibial artery coming down and would form the dorsal pedis artery on the top of the foot. You can take a pulse on that dorsal pedis artery. What's this other nerve in here? Well, we've kind of mentioned these as we've gone down, but the tibial goes down and does everything posterior and then splits for the bottom of the foot. But the common fibular comes to the side and splits into two nerves. One is the superficial fibular, going to the fibularis longus and brevis. But another one is called the deep fibular nerve right here, and that does the anterior compartment, deep fibular nerve. Now any artery that's deep is going to be tracked back up with the vein. We catch it here with the popliteal vein, switch it on over to the anterior side, and it becomes the femoral vein, and then that drains on up to here. Here we catch the femoral vein, and this is the great saphenous going into it. Femoral vein comes up, turns into the external iliac, common iliac, and then inferior vena cava, taking you back to the heart.